Now we will define our custom room in myroom.js, but first of all I want to fix some errors I did. In player.js we need to export this player class as a default, and in myroom.state.js we need to import this player as we do in ES6 and not this way. So now you can see our server is up and running. Let's stop it first and start again. Yes, it is running at port 2567. Now let's define our custom room. We will define a custom room in myroom.js. Let's close all these files. Here our built-in room class is already imported from Collizius for us to extend or inherit into a customized room class. You can see here. This built-in room class is used to implement a game session or serve as a communication channel between a group of clients, as in other frameworks like socket.io. Now we define our customized room class here by the name of myroom. This customized myroom class should be exposed to the client in arena.config using define method of game server instance as seen here. Let's close this file also. Following are the lifecycle events that are called automatically. Each of these events support async await, but it is optional. First is onCreate lifecycle event, which is called once when the room is created by the matchmaker. It is usual to initialize our game state this way. We are setting our game state in onCreate. When a room is created, we are setting the initial state to our game by creating a new instance of the myRoomState class. If you wish, you can also state the maximum clients, that is the players including the host, that are allowed to connect into a room in this block only. Collizius provides a built-in property called max clients in its room class for it. Let's say we want to define max clients to be 10, so we do it like this. The options argument here or parameter is provided by the client upon room creation. The client can provide certain information about the room via this parameter when creating a room. Let's take an example where the host is providing the maximum number of clients that can join the room created by him or her. Then we need to set this room's max clients property as follows. Oh, sorry. Test.room.maxLines, and it should be this.room.maxLines here also. It should be the max lines provided by the client. So options dot the parameter name can be defined by the client Let's say it would be maximum client. So now we are setting the max client's property of room class. Sorry, another typo here. To the maximum clients provided by the client. OnCreate block is also used to register callbacks or API contracts to process a type of message sent by the client side. You can see here. This type can be any action defined by the client. Inside this block we handle this message. This message is handled inside this block. Now let's move on to our next lifecycle event. But before that, I want to tell you another event available but not provided by Collisions by default. It's on-auth event. It is used to verify the authenticity of the client joining the room. You can set certain conditions for a player to satisfy to be able to join the room. If we choose to use on-auth, it will allow any client to connect to the room. Now let's see on-join event. On-join event is called when the client successfully joins the room. Thus both on-join and on-create event is called when the host creates a room and then joins it. It has two parameters. The first one is the client instance that refers to the current joining client. This one. The second one is the options in which the client will be sending additional information like his or her name and so on. This one. We will be creating a new player instance in this block and assigning corresponding initial state values. But first we need to import the player, so let's import it. We should import using ES6 importing method. It is inside schema subfolder. Inside rooms, then schema, then player. Now let's assign the name given by the client. We can name the variable anything. Let's name it by name. Now we need to set this player to the player's map in our game state. So this dot state dot players dot set. Now we give a key value pair to the set method of the player's map. We use the unique ID called session ID given by Collisions to each connected clients as the key. So let's give the session ID. and the player we just defined as the value. Thus each player can be now uniquely referred by their IDs. Now we can check if the room has reached its maximum limit of max clients. So we shall check using if statement. If the player's size or the size of the map, this dot state dot players dot size has reached its maximum limit, that is max clients, is equal to this dot room dot max clients, then we should log out a message that maximum clients is reached. And then the room will be locked for new players to join so that no new players can join that room. We can also pass the room ID to show which room has locked. This dot room dot room ID. This is also a default or built-in parameters in the room class given by Policious. We can now see our next event, that is on leave. On leave lifecycle event is called when a client leaves the room. It also has two parameters. First one refers to the current leaving client, this one. The second parameter is a boolean which is true when the player is leaving willingly, or this leave event was initiated by this client only. But there are cases like the one where the host chooses to kick a player. In that case, this parameters will take a false value. Further, the host can kick a player by using the leave method for that player instance. So we can choose to remove the player from the game state if he or she is leaving willingly. So if it is consented, if consented, then we need to remove the player from the game state. So this dot state dot players dot delete. We need to pass this player session ID. And the player will be deleted. Else if he or she is being kicked by the host, we can allow to reconnect to the room for a certain amount of time. So let's define the else block. Since the server will have to wait for the client's choice to reconnect or not, we would have to use async await now. So let's write async before on leave. And then we should allow the client to reconnect. So it is to be written await. Then to allow the client to reconnect, we should use Policious provides a member method in its room class for this purpose called allow reconnection. It is dot allow reconnection. This method takes first parameters as the client to whom we want to reconnect. So pass the client as the first parameter. And the second parameter is the time limit in seconds for which it will wait. Let's say we want to wait for 60 seconds. So here it is 60 seconds. Now next lifecycle event is on dispose. This event is called before the room is destroyed, which happens when there are no more clients left in the room, or you manually call disconnect method to disconnect all the clients. It is good to save your game state in database in this block before the room is destroyed. So save your game state to database in this block only.